Hey, folks. There's something wonky going on with my background. There we go. Hey, guys. Let's see. Yeah, let me go ahead and let me share everything's up and running here, and we'll get through our intro spiel here real quick, and then we'll get to work. So, Daka, 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 more daka. More daka is what we need. Hold on here real quick. Daka, daka, daka. Daka, 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 daka. Yes, that sounds good. Cool. All right. Let's see. Walk through my intro spiel, and then we'll get in some artwork here for the upcoming book that we're working on. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. Let's see. Check, 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 check. Okay, great. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements. I publish them online as PDFs. I've been focusing my attention primarily on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition lately. There is a slew of work that I have already produced that is online for you to take a look at. There are links down below that go to DMsGuild.com. Any one of those links lead you to different books that we've created previously already. They're all 100% free preview. You can read them all cover to cover. Probably about 150 some odd illustrations among the books that are listed there. If you're an art enthusiast, check it out, see the kind of stuff that I do. If you are a D&D enthusiast, definitely check out what I've been up to. All the stuff that I create is both for players and DMs from level 1 to 20. And if you like the work, then consider making a purchase to encourage more behavior like that. In addition, I've just posted that I'm live on Twitter, so if you want to follow me and find out when I am live in the future, you can also follow me at Twitter at Phil Kearney, as the link down below. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel, best way to do that is to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to help me accumulate more followers for the efforts. What are we doing right now? We're creating role-playing game supplements. So we focus on Dungeons & Dragons. This is the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book cover that we created back around episode 15 of the Spelljammer playlist that we are now adding episode, 134? Wow, 145. Cool. So we're creating NPC tokens for the Light of Xaryxis adventure. Right now we're working on a Thrycreen. So I'm preliminarily happy with the sketch art that we have. I'm going to create a reference file here, and we'll create a trash folder here. And I'm not quite happy with how this is sitting, so I'm going to create a duplicate of this layer, and then we're going to jump in over here. We're going to grab at this arm. I just think the perspective is off a little bit. Feels more like it should be over here. Top. Making sure my pixels are all right. Pixels are all right. There we go. That's better. I don't know. It seems kind of goonish. We want to let's tear this off again. Let's drop down the lighting there. Let's see if I can bend this around to be a little more palatable. Like this. Not quite happy with that. Here. here. Let's see if I can get this right. Oh my god, I don't have coffee and I haven't set a clock. First off, most important, I gotta set a timer. It's 6:20 here. I've got about 100 minutes worth of production left in me this morning. We're gonna be on this afternoon as well. In about probably in about 6 some odd hours, we're gonna start working on a book cover that Ukulele Bard, my co-writer, had hired me as part of the payment for this project. I agreed to create a landscape book cover. So we're going to start in on that process today at lunchtime, our lunch stream in about 6 hours. So if you want to see some Bob Ross Rolling Hills, then you are certainly welcome to plug back in this afternoon with us. And it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to create some landscape painting, so I am really looking forward to that. So there we go. Now we're starting to figure out where our claws are supposed to be. Like that. I'm gonna have to grab coffee here in a second. The pot's ready. I jumped on before I had my coffee set. Silly me. Trim that up a bit. Like that-ish. There we go. Nice. That's fitting in. Basically, like that. Yeah, there we go. And then we can probably skew. Yeah, there we go. And now we'll warp. check. There we go. Nope, trash. Thank you. We good over here? Saw the Adam Driver movie, 65. It's horrible. Just absolute garbage. It's not even good garbage. Like Lara Croft Tomb Raider, the original one, like what, in 2000? 2001? That was garbage, but it was fun garbage. It was fun garbage like Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is fun, but like obviously less serious. At 65 million tries to take itself seriously, and it's bad. So, you know, mixed genre much? But yeah, it's bad. It's, you know, good luck if you like it. I'm not gonna make fun of you if you like it. But it had very dumb decision making, so the movie could happen moments. You'll see him when you see him. You know, if you bother to see it. Like characters running off in the wrong direction when they want to be smart, they're being stupid, that sort of thing. Typical Hollywood bullshit. There we go. There. Okay, I'm good with that. So let's see. I needed a little bit of. I think I need to do a little bit of cleanup. Let's see if I can get some cleanup done here real quick. I thought this guy was looking pretty good, but. I want to do a little bit of cleanup here. The antenna are my favorite part. Truth be told. Good. There we go. Good. Excuse me. Oh boy, what a clear throat I have now. Flimmy. Going like that, and then here, like here. Cha-cha. There. Liking these curves, man. It's a cool build. I like Theurgy a lot. They're a cool species in general. One of my favorites all the way back from the Dark Sun days. Kreen are cool. When my alarm pops, I'm going to go get some coffee, and I'll be back in like 6 seconds. Coffee pot's just right over there. I just have to get off my ass and go grab it. But I'm in the flow, yo. So we'll wait for time to pop me out of flow, and then we'll go fetch. I hear you, coffee pot. It's hissing at me. It's like, I got coffee for you to drink. I'll drink you. I'll drink you. Here. Almost there. Stand target. Hey, Hornetico. It's good to see you, my guy. We are building some Theurgy creature token. One of the ship crews that you can gain in Light of Xaryxis. One of the squadrons in the fleet that you assemble during the last act. One of them is a Theurgy faction that, if you can befriend, they will contribute 5 scorpion ships to your mission to defeat the elves, which stacks into a 10x10 squadron for you to add to your fleet. A squadron is when you have multiple ships occupying the same 500-foot space. A fleet is when you are commanding a number of ships that occupy, a number of squadrons that occupy multiple 500-foot spaces. So a scorpion ship is a 2x2 vessel. It's 75 feet long, so it occupies 2 50-foot squares. So it's a 2x2 ship at the 500-foot, at the 50-foot scale. So you can, at the 500-foot scale, fit up to 10 squares worth of ship per squadron. And since a scorpion ship is a 2x2, you can fit 5 of them into a single 500-foot squadron. You can obviously pack way more than a 100-foot by 100-foot ship. Like you can fit in like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can technically fit 16 100 by 100-foot ships inside of a 500-foot square just by packing them in shoulder to shoulder, butt to nose. But that doesn't increase. You can do that, and if you do, it increases the amount of hit points that your squadron has. But it doesn't increase the amount of damage that it can do beyond the 10d6 times 100 damage that it would do with its mangonels, like a full squadron unleashing a barrage of mangonel stones. If there's 10 or if there's 15, 5 or 15 scorpion ships, it doesn't make a difference. It's still going to cap at 10d6 times 100 times 10 siege damage in a single barrage. It's just that you can have way more ships in the squadron. So if you lose 4 or 5, if you have 10 scorpion ships in a squadron and you lose 5 of them, you still have 5 scorpions, which still gives you the full 10d6 times 10 siege barrage damage. So you can afford, so that squadron can afford to take more losses and still remain combat effective. It doesn't scale up to like 15d6 times 10 damage. You could theoretically do it that way, but it just the damage gets ridiculous. So you cap it at the 10d whatever, and just add in additional ships in the squadron to deal more damage. If you have multiple squadrons, or like 5 scorpions and 5 scorpions as separate squadrons, to form 2 separate 500-foot spaces, those can fire as separate 10d6 and another 10d6 for a total of 20d6 between the two of them. But it's also going to ratchet up your reload rate so that you aren't going to be able to fire those more than once per round. That's like a what's the word? The reload score on that would be 20, and the maximum die size you can have is a d12. So if you do that, you're going to have to spend an action to reload both the first squadron and the second squadron and have them re-coordinate so they can both attack again. So it's going to fire once and then eat action economy, eat action economy. If you're an 11th level fighter, it could take all 3 of your attacks to fire once and then reload those weapons to be ready again next round. So scaling up damage, like scaling up the amount of ships that you have, increases the amount of damage that you can do in a barrage, but it also forces you to eat up more action economy among your team per turn. Like whether it's you that's eating up extra attacks, or you've got 3 fighters on deck that are splitting up their action economy amongst each other to support each other and with reactions and bonus actions to reload weapons during between barrages. That's all that action economy is handled in the ship rules section of the book that we've looked at before. But it's really an analysis of like, do I want to have like one die roll affect both of my squadron's attacks? Because if I miss the attack, then it's going to eat up my action economy, as opposed to like dealing like with one squadron at a time and dividing the squadron amongst multiple commanders, so that everyone has more die rolls to make and less hinges on the result of any single die roll. So that's the hidden action economy of the system that we'll have an opportunity to dive way deeper into as we start creating the as we start creating the maps in the Light of Xaryxis section of the supplement. But for now, we are creating the Kreen token for the creatures that are aboard the Scorpion ships. I don't know. It feels like racial profiling to have the Kreen on the Scorpion ship. The bug ship has the bug people. Like that just. I guess I shouldn't shit on that too much, because in Warhammer all the humans have human skulls on their ships. Well, not all of them. Some of them. I think some of them do. I know Voltron does. I think I have to recant that statement here. I don't think Warhammer has skulls on their ships. I always imagine them to be like the Space Hulks that they have. I always imagine them to be like have giant skulls mounted on the front of their prow. And I don't think they actually do. That's okay. I'm not really triggered over the subject. It's just shorthand again. We'll have to explain ourselves when we meet bug people in space, but until then, I guess we're okay with BSing it. There. Cool. Okay. I am pretty happy with this construction here. Don't need that extra bit. The abdomen on these things are just like the abdomen would be here. I see text off to the side. I will attend to you in a second. Warhammer has skulls on everything. Yeah. Oh, that's right. They do. The floating skulls with like little exhaust pipes on the back. That's right. But I just don't know if their ship actually has like a skull mounted to the prow of their vessels. I know that there's a strong skull presence. I mean, skulls are such a human thing in the space lore that is Warhammer. It totally makes sense that humans would have identifying skulls for their species, like the difference between orc and human. You know, like orcs don't think that way. It's just not the way orcs think. Let me get rid of this line here. But I love the visual language of Warhammer so much. It's such a cool IP. Okay, cool. No, wait. Clean up that bit there. Is my timer about to pop? Because, for fuck's sake, I am dying for some coffee. No. Yes. There. There, and this guy's dope. I fucking love Kreen. Hey, Dreams, it's good to see you, my guy. Love Thrycrane. There, this guy is good to go. So we can toss that in the trash, and we can duplicate this layer, and we can drop this one into the B-dub. And then we can drop this one into color. And then we can hopscotch here, push that there. Here's a damsel, a damsel Kreen. Versus a where are you at, dude? There. Here's a brute. These are from a different project that I was working on. But if you want gender role identities in your Kreen, this is a decent way of being able to separate between them. So it has a very Ant-Man and the Wasp kind of aesthetic to her. It's got the gun pod sort of forearm effect still going, but it's a far more feminine frame than the larger V-shaped bulk. Like the V shape is what you can expect in a masculine form. And then the hourglass sort of sweep in, sweep out look is what you can generally put language towards for females. So this has this inward sweep here, and then it has the sweep here. So it automatically, regardless of the limbs and the stance, this sort of helps establish a feminine look, as opposed to here you can see the V in the shoulder structure here. That implies masculine. So, and then the bulk of the thigh is lower down here and framed towards the knees, as opposed to the bulk of the leg here is towards the thighs. So you have this tapering effect, which is feminine, versus this bulbing look, which is more male. So you have this V effect that then bubbles out towards the bottom, as opposed to the female that bubbles out towards the top and then tapers down. They're kind of complementary, that they curve together in different ways. But isn't that just elegance for a species? So, but those are fun to sketch out. Those are just things I'm throwing around for fun for you to look at. But yeah, they're fucking cool. If you want, that's a really great way to be able to distinguish between masculine and feminine identity inside of an insectile species. So anyway, whatever, Kearney. Here's the color sample we have from the Wizards of the Coast for me to build my Kreen with, and let's compare our differences here. So he's got this big, this arm would hang down to about here in length, which lines up with this drop here as well. So it looks like I've got my proportions lined up with what current D&D thinking is. I just need to grab a base color layer here. So again, colorblind people, we don't see the color. We have to go on an RGB search up here in the corner. So we're looking at our highlights here. It's got this reddishness to it. Drop it down, still has that same reddishness, which means that this is as a mid-tone. Probably like around here is a decent mid-tone for me, but ooh, wow, purple. What's the rules behind that? Red, 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 red. But is the interior of this purple anywhere? Because I saw a little splash of purple, but I think that's a highlight. Yeah, there's like a blue tinge, I think, being implied in this because of the way that it's bending into the purple here. But here is a highlight. Yeah, it's like a secondary light that's doing this purpliness. Just double checking my shit to make sure I've got my head on. Yeah. Where's that interior? It's like the inside of the skeleton. Hold on, we're searching for some solutions in here. Yeah, there's a purplishness going on in the shadow. That's what it is. And then if there's a counter, like a reflective light, that's catching a little bit. Am I right? Nope, so far I'm not. Double checking. Oh, there's blue here. Oh, that's the armor. It's actually wearing armor. That's where that blue is coming from. Thank you. So the head itself should be back into the red motif. That's right. Okay, I understand this now. Okay, cool. That took a moment for me. So this is blue as well. Yeah, the weaponry is blue. Blue? Mystery solved. Okay, cool. I get you. But I wouldn't know that because the eyes won't tell me blue versus red. I have to figure it out by crawling pixels. But if I hadn't known that, I may have accidentally grabbed a cast shadow or used this armor plating out of just carelessness to pick up the wrong color scheme. So that's why I have to do this color sweep. Why is this pulling purple? It must be a. It doesn't look like it's a. Oh yeah, that's like an armored. That feels like. Huh. Like a buckler. It feels like a buckler, but oh, it's just being influenced by the. It's being influenced by the blade. Okay, cool. Let's get out of that space. Super sharp red down there. Still haven't found what I'm looking for, says Bono. That's probably, there we go. That's a good mid ground. All right, let's go with that. Let's see how that shit shakes out. It's very dark. We'll go with it for now. Very good. Where is my timer? Did I set my timer and stop it on accident? This has only been 10 minutes? Fuck's sake. That's 52. It's more than 10 minutes. I've had one timer pop. It's been a half hour. Which means I'm 10 minutes away from my next timer, which means I'm theoretically 10 minutes away from coffee. That is fucking unacceptable. All right, I'm going to hit save here real quick. I'm going to step up, walk over, grab a pot of coffee, and blurple. I'll be over. I just got to grab. I got this new, what is this? The word I'm looking for is biscotti? Yeah, almond biscotti. It's almond biscotti flavored coffee. I don't know if it's worth a shit or not, but... But I have not had any coffee this morning. So let's... Oh my God. The morning has actually begun. Chase down some water and get the hydration. And then... Ooh, that's a good blend. A home goods store opened next to the Best Buy that I use for computer equipment, just next door. So now I have a ridiculous coffee supplier. Like, Home Goods is great for having exotic coffee and hot sauces. Like that's its main. That's the purpose it serves in my life, is providing me with exotic coffee and like flaming pepper sauce, or like jacked up sriracha or whatever. Good stuff. I'm gonna fill in these gaps. Burp, 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 burp. This will be a lot of fun to do lighting for. I love my cream. Always been my favorite. Dark Sun depicted them so differently, like more like centaurs, with really like 8-foot long abdomens, like grasshoppers, that had ridiculous jumping ability, but they also had, with that huge plank of an abdomen behind them, it was really great for putting equipment on. So and when we played Dark Sun, we always made the cream the pack horse, like the literal pack horse of the party, because they had all of this extra carrying space along their abdomen. You could just dump backpacks on, and as long as you had like a high strength character, you could just load shitloads of equipment on their back. We had one of our campaigns. We were a heavy metal band that was going on concert from city state to city state, and we'd do adventuring along the way, kind of like the A-Team, but more mischievous. But the Kreen in our party was the drummer, so their entire drum kit was on their back. We had a dwarven bassist and an elven violinist and a half dwarf called a mule, or mule. Was our lead singer. That was fun. That was a fun campaign. Second edition wasn't nearly as gonzo as Beckme is, but like second edition, I think is when they really started. Like I believe Dragonlance was a second edition era publication, where they started building out stories as the main drive in adventures, as opposed to just like random stuff. Like, here's a random dungeon created with a bunch of cool monsters. Let's make up a story about it, and then there you go. As opposed to starting with a storyline first that acted more like as something that you could ride through as opposed to adventuring through. So that's a really big culture shift in BECME into 2nd edition plus. I think 3rd edition did an okay job, like with Sunless Citadel and stuff, picking up a little bit of that original dungeon vibe. But 5th edition has really embraced the story narrative aspect of adventuring that got started in Dragonlance, where you're basically like on an amusement ride sort of rail system, leading you from one encounter to another through a story arc. And then 5th edition took strides towards sort of I get this this vibe of like leaning into narrative relationships like as role-playing opportunities, but that was like the role-playing was like was almost like a byproduct of the world of just like the world exploration that 1st edition style of loot gatherer adventuring created. Like if you ended up like if you have like rolled 2 hit points as a fighter at 1st level, the chances of your character dying is massive. So it's like you don't really even bother with a backstory. Like you don't need a background on a character that has 2 hit points and is only doing D8 damage and has an armor class of 14. And like that's all the stats the character really has. Like you're fucked. That character is going to die. And if that character somehow doesn't die, they're a fucking legend. It's like, I can't believe this character survived. And they immediately have, have status in at your table because there's no reason this piece of crap character should have survived. But yet, here it is. 7 sessions in, and this now 15 hit point human still has not died from God knows how many horrible traps. Like, that's where the... how to put it, like people fell in love with their characters, not because their characters were cool, but because they survived long enough to become cool. Like if you're gonna have like in BECME, if you had a background feature as a component to your character, it's like you wouldn't create that component at 1st level because what a waste of a die roll. You don't need to do that for your character. It'd be more like at 5th level, your characters obviously survived long enough. Let's build a backstory for them now. Like that's the mentality of BECME. Like you're gonna cycle through 4 characters before you find something that's gonna survive long enough for you to care about. And in like Dark Sun in 2nd edition, there was a character tree. They had you build 3 characters at a time, and you can only play 1 character at a time. Every time the character you were playing leveled up, one of the other characters you aren't playing could gain a level, so that you could have a backup character at all times that was clocking levels along with you. So when you lose a character, you could swap out and build a new one. That was an interesting system. I mean, the default that was back when the default was if you die, you start over at 1st level. And in Dark Sun, conditions are so harsh that you don't start at 1st level, you start at 3rd level. And that's the beginning of my character isn't strong enough to survive at 1st level. Let's start at 3rd level with our subclass features. It started in Dark Sun, where the campaigns were so deadly, they gave you extra levels just to survive the weather. And that mentality was not picked up in later editions as the default reason to start above 1st level. It's in third edition it was the prestige classes. Like I want to start at 6th level because I can have access to at least 1 prestige class at that level when I start multi-classing, and you will multi-class in 3rd edition. The whole 3rd edition was designed to have you multi-class. They offered 20 levels of characters for, I don't know why. They honestly could have done like 10 levels of fighter and then dropped it there and then forced you to continue on in multi-classing into prestige classes. But multi-classing was still technically a variant rule. So it was technically your base class plus whatever prestige classes you want to pick up, or you would just start, or you could just stay in a single class. But the single classes, the features were so like entry level. Like they were like all the class features in third edition were designed to be multi-classed out of into a prestige class, so that would lean into whatever aspect of your character mechanics that you like. What, like if the rogue with sneak attack, you could lean into like a thug build that would roll d8s instead of d6s on sneak attack or whatever. Like you'd have to kit specifically into a prestige class that would take a class feature and then bend it to become something else. There we go. 20 minutes. Cool. I googled it. Beckme. Yes. Yeah. Beckme is technically the red box, like red BXMI or BECMI, the basic expert companion masters immortal box set series from level 1 to 36, and then into the immortal set past 36 into whatever. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, AD&D First Edition, that converted. That didn't have a cap. Like once you get to level 9, you gain name status. After that, there was no cap, but there was no like I want to say it was like level 17 that the wizard capped out on. I think it was the same that you got in third edition at 17th level. You got access to 9th level spells. I'm not recalling offhand Beckme's progression, but I believe wizard progression, I want to say it stopped at 12. Obviously, I'm not looking at sources right now, but the progression was a lot different, and the scaling was significantly less. But I think Warhammer, the Warhammer Fantasy RPG. It was a series of prestige classes, but there would only be like 3 or 4 levels per class. Like you could start off as a rat trapper for like 4 levels, and once you finish your rat trapper set, then you could graduate onto like street thug or assassin or constable, and then you like take 3 levels of like being a constable. So now that you're a rat trapper and a constable, you could qualify for like being a bounty hunter for 5 levels. And once you cap that out, like you go Mage Slayer for 3 levels. But that's all there was. So Warhammer was just a series of like these tight little like 3 to 5 level kits that you would keep pushing your character through, but there was no limit to how many of these professions you could pick up. It was just a matter of, now that I've perfected my bounty hunting, what am I curving? Well, Mage Slayer. Well, now that we I perfected Mage Slayer, maybe I go like into Alchemist. And then I eventually become a mage myself, and I become the thing that I wanted to, the thing that I used to hunt, that sort of thing. But you have this narrative about how your character moves through different professions to express the growth of that character in the campaign world. It's a cool system. It's just Warhammer 40k is just clunky as fuck. But a Warhammer Fantasy using a D20 system would probably actually be really, really good. I don't know if it exists yet. I'd be amazed if it doesn't. Just never bothered researching it. But that short fuse class progression system is something that I really enjoy, because you can set all sorts of internal caps to limit character growth and scaling. Like you could, like a system like that, you could have 5th level, like you could have up to 5th level character, like 5th level spells, for instance. You could cap at 5th level spells, and then like in D&D, like 6th to 9th level spells, high magic could be like relegated only to rituals. But then you'd have to be like a cultist to be able to gain advantages on on rolling dice to cast rituals. And so all the high-end stuff you could attempt at first level, but the skill check DC would be like 25 or something ridiculous like that. You're just automatically going to fail and get yourself killed. But the book called Theurgy, Ability Check Casting, is the book I built on the DMsGuild. I think it's in the description down below. But that's all about using a skill check to cast a spell as a ritual that takes a long time, requires a lot of area for you to draw with chalk, the sigils on the ground, and a lot of gold for the type of magical, the magic inks and powder and chalk that you need to be able to perform the ritual at all. So it's a big cash sink, time sink, and ability check, and if you screw up the ability check, and you have to make multiple ability checks over the course of a higher level spell. If you fuck up any of the die rolls along the way, it causes a mishap. So it's really just a long-winded like in-game excuse to allow NPCs like a commoner to attempt a wish spell with a genie, and obviously fails the skill check and ends up wishing themselves into trouble. And now, yeah, I like that outline. That looks really fucking good. All right, let's grab some highlights. And sorry, I had to break my thought there. Highlights and shadows. Let's go like, yeah, there's a little bit of purple in the depth. I'm cool with that. Let's go with, what do we want to work on first? Let's go with shadow. The shadows, no. So we'll go like that. Oopie doopie. Found some tweaky shadow bits. There. That puppy upstairs has got the rips again. There's this little toy husky that my upstairs neighbors have, and that puppy just gets the rips all the time. I mean, huskies are built to run. Even the toy ones want to just run. But in a little apartment, all it can really do is run in circles. I feel bad for it sometimes, but, you know, technically not my problem. But yeah, that's something I'd be sorely tempted to do if I were to make my own role-playing game. Putting just building classes in five level bursts, forcing you to multi-class out of your initial your background. You wouldn't have a background like D&D does. You would have a starting background class. And so like farmhand or veteran soldier, all those things could be like 2 or 3 level intro prestige, like intro classes. Like, here's the set of skills I have, and here's the weapons and armor proficiency I get and whatever. And if I want to get better, like if I start off as like militia soldier, I don't actually become like a fighter until I finish being a militia soldier. Like the first 2 levels is like my background levels, and then from there I could actually graduate like into fighter or ranger or paladin, or like I could go with survivalist and then multi-class into ranger, druid, or barbarian stuff, for instance. And like barbarian would be like a 5 level class that gives you the rage feature and some damage reduction, but it dead ends after 4 levels. So now I have to prestige class into like one of the traditional barbarian subclasses, like Berserker, for instance. But Berserker might only be like 3 or 4 levels long, each level gaining a subclass feature. So I can condense the levels of all like the 13 classes in D&D. I could condense those down into like 4 level sprawls. And then each subclass that builds out of that character could become like a Strix class that any character could multi-class into. But and it's like, say, 4 levels long, and each subclass feature that you would normally gain would be like what you gain with each level, plus like some hit points, and your proficiency bonus would continue stacking up at your character level instead of your class level, and like feats would be gained. Like feats are easy ways for you to give purpose to a level. Like you could take like a free level in your multi-classing progression. So like instead of like taking fighter specifically, I could take a utility level, which would like maybe, I don't know, like gain 3 hit points plus a feat, or like choose a feat or an extra spell slot or something like that. A number of different ways it could be done, but that's the sort of idea that I've been thinking about for an RPG if I were to make one. which, you know, do I actually need to make an entire role-playing game or not? Or do I just want to heavily modify whatever 5e evolves into outside of Wizards of the Coast? Who knows? I don't know. I still just like taking Wizard stuff and doing more with it than they had done. Just in general. Let's do like that. Experiencing a fit of silence. Character progression in that system would be a nightmare, though. Like, if we're going to start, like, if we're going to go, like, start with character, like, if we're going to build characters starting at, like, say, 7th level, and you've got, like, a pathway to build from level, like, you literally have to build the pathway from level 1 through your background class into your first profession, into your prestige classes. Like, that was an entire mini game that people would play, like, quote unquote play, when in 3rd edition. It was like, what am I trying to say? Like, if that's where D&D optimization really began. Prior to 3rd edition, all of your character's power came from the magic items that you found, which is why you would dive into dungeons, because that's where all the treasure was kept. You wanted to delve dungeons because the only way Beckme characters could really accumulate any real power was by accumulating a crap load of like armor of resilience and like sword of kill your foe, stuff like that. Like it was all about magic item identities. So when you would hang out and be dorky with a new friend that you made that played D&D, it's like, you know, you play D&D, it's, yeah, I had this one character, and then they would start telling you about all of the magic items that character had found. But it was about hey, and I went into this one dungeon and I found this shield that let me reflect stuff. So then when I went into this other dungeon, I used that shield to defeat this monster, which gave me access to this warhammer, which is fucking awesome because it takes me to another dimension when I say the magic words. And in that other dimension, I found this amazing, like these super boots and this kick-ass armor and blah, blah, blah. So like your character was a string of basically hunting trophies. There wasn't any real identity behind your character because they're all the fucking same. Like every fighter was the same fighter. It's just how many extra hit points do you have in comparison? The diversity came from what gear do I have? That was your entire identity. And then 3rd edition switched it. So it wasn't about what gear do I have. It became what levels and feats did I take? And the identity became like superpowers as opposed to equipment. So that really shifted the culture of, like, there was no optimization community prior to 3rd edition, because what are you going to optimize? You either have a Holy Avenger +5 sword or you don't. You know, maybe you only have like a Defender +3 or something. But there's no real optimization other than, boy, I wish I had this really good magic sword. You know, I have that magic sword now. My character is much more optimal in fighting monsters than it was before it picked up this hammer. Like that's as far as optimization went. But once you started building out like prestige classes, that was what was so cool about prestige classes was you would build your character like you'd literally be building your character's progression. It wasn't like in 5e where you gain a class like I'm going to be a fighter, I'm going to be an arcane archer, and essentially other than feats, all my decisions are done. The same thing really is with the sorcerer or any other spellcaster. Like I'm going to take this class and this subclass, but all the spells that I have are essentially the same. Like it's from that spell list. And other than feats, I don't have any real optimization decisions to make for my character anymore. But in 3rd edition, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a wizard for 5 levels, and then I'm going to dip into occultist, and then I'm going to delve into, you know, psychic or whatever. Blah 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 blah. You keep spinning off into other prestige classes to gain or amp up different class features that you had. Because the class features would start, then we had scaling class features now too. But none of that stuff existed before 3rd edition. This guy's looking pretty fucking cool. Second edition made strides towards optimization because of the psionicists that they developed for the, like they really developed psionics for Dark Sun, and there was a shitload of psionic powers, and it was a spell point pool that you would use to manifest different psionic powers during the adventures. So actually, like, I guess to an extent, kitting out characters or optimizing characters kind of started with psionics, because you could optimize into different disciplines, like a metabolist, a psychometabolist, or like, I want to change this a little bit like that. That lines up with this little mark here. So I wanted to get a little bump in like that here. There we go. Chip, chop, chiri, chiru, chirom. And I can keep on with this. Very good. Nice. Like spellcasting, you had access, all spellcasters, there was, that's not necessarily true. There was schools of magic, and then there were spheres of domain for the clerics, and like the wizard specialists. There was 8 schools plus universals, just universal generic magic, like utility as a base magic. But in 2nd edition, there was specialists. So, like, if you were a necromancer, you wouldn't have access to like you wouldn't have access to evocation spells, for instance. Or if you're an abjurist, you wouldn't have access to like illusions. So, like, there was this weird dichotomy that they had set up to limit access to spell casting, what spells were there. So that actually kind of began the optimization path of, like, are you a necromancer, or are you an abjurist? Are you a conjurer, or are you an illusionist? That sort of dichotomy existed. So technically, optimization, I guess, began in 2nd edition when that stuff started happening. I need to do my highlights here. What are your methods for shading? I love the way you have it shaded there. Oh, I'm using this again. I just plucked a dark, like I grabbed the shadow here and then like highlights here as my base colors to switch between over here on the RGB. So I have a really dark shadow and a really bright highlight, so that I can have this this high amount, like this high degree of contrast, like this large amount of contrast. And then, so when I'm shading, I'm just arbitrarily selecting a light source. In this instance, it's basically like overhead front facing, like coming from like this direction, like that. So I can put some highlights here, and the cloud brush that I built does most of my work in smudging. It's an irregular shape, but here, I think I've demonstrated this before, but I'll take a moment here to there. Let's do like that. And oh, the resolution might not be high enough to see it. There. Okay, there it is. See, it has all these little lines in here. These are different layers. Like this here, this shape through here is one shape here, one shape here, and one shape here. It's actually here. I'll go back to the other thing. It's actually a bunch of circles like this that are stacked up over each other. So in the middle of the mass, it has a so you can see those little lines that are starting to populate there. This is what this is. It's a cloud of these little dots that I made white, and then I created a brush out of this. So it picked up all these little fluffy, like all these little lines in there. Like that looks kind of like a cloud, but that's what this brush does every time. Each of these little jaggedy curves along the circumference of this is different levels of opacity. So when I grab something and pull it, it's pulling each of these pixels with different amounts of opacity. So it causes this interesting blending effect that has a very, very low pixel count, a very low energy, because it's taking just pieces of each pixel with the transparencies here, but it's dragging like 50 different instances of each of those pixels being dragged at different strengths at the same time. So it creates this really interesting smudging effect that makes it really easy to create this cloudy, soft edge effect without causing my CPU to start overclocking itself. So it took me a long time to figure that out. But so I use that as my base for whenever I'm doing shading. It's me dropping a dollop of paint on the creature. Like we'll drop let me grab the proper highlight here. There. Is that the... Are we doing this right? Oh, that's right. I need to spec that up to 0 again. There. So I'll take this highlight. Like I know that the light's coming down like this. So like if I'm going to like say highlight the chest, I'll put a blotch of pure color, and then I'll take my smudge and I'll smudge out the color depending on the shape of the object. Like it's chitinous, and it's got a curve. It's got this curve here because it's a pectoral muscle. Basically, it's like pectoral armor. So I have this curve effect here, and then I can smudge out the curve. So I'm dropping dollops of paint, and then I'm just pushing them like finger painting. All of my shading process is essentially just high-level finger painting. So I can drop a dollop, and then I can smudge it, and then blend it in. So I do that. I do that for the shade. Sorry, I do that for the shade, and then I do that for the highlights as well. And currently I have the highlights over the line art. I didn't intend to do that, but that's just kind of reflexively how I do it. So I can create these real easy curved sheen effects here. And then depending on what the texture is, like what the surface is, will depend on how I do the smudging. And that's just a matter of just learning materials, like learning how does a different material work. I actually want to put this highlight underneath the art, underneath the line art. Otherwise, it'll start getting a little bit too blurry. That's there, and technically that's there. So we'll do a little highlight over here, like that. And then we can just add in more shadow on the fly wherever it feels right to do it. And then I go to the other layer and keep working the highlight here. Like that. So it's very simple. But again, it's all in the technique and your comfort in the practice of knowing what the line, like what the length, like how the tool works, how it does fades, but it has like this really cool, like a stone or a sort of metal look to it, unless I specifically break up the surface, unless I specifically break it up to have a different sort of texturing to it. But it's a real gentle blending process that's really easy, and it's very, very low CPU usage. So I can push pixels hard and fast with it without grinding my computer to a halt. And then I do all the highlighting underneath the line art, and then when I'm done, I can merge the line art with the actual text, with the actual color underneath it, and then smudge out the borders so it looks less comic booky, and it just blends into it a little bit more. And then I could drop highlights underneath line work if I need to, but these are just basic tokens, so I'm not really pushing myself hard into that, higher level of realism. Like I'm okay with line art on some of these, just depending on what I'm feeling about the particular token at the time. Hopefully that's a quick little crash course there, makes some sense to you. Let's do it like that. So I can put a highlight here, and then I'm smudging, pulling the highlight down the limb, and then I'm blending across like Bob Ross with clouds just to blend it in, to work it into the canvas, as it were, so that it doesn't stand out separately. But now I get to like push forward the limb like this, so it's more forward leaning as opposed to downward leaning, by changing the perspective of where the highlights are hitting it. So that makes it move forward as opposed to recessing, is the intention there. Would you be willing to send me these brushes so I can experiment with them? I don't know about that. I normally don't share my brushes. Only because me handing you a brush doesn't really teach you anything. You can certainly experiment with it, but you can build a brush in Photoshop. It takes no time to build a brush in Photoshop. You can literally take black, and like if you wanted to do the same thing, you would literally just take a brush, you would drop it down to like 20% opacity, and then you would stack it up like this. And then you could like cut that out, go into new, here, create a transparent layer like this, and then you click on highlight the whole thing, and then edit, and then go down to let's see, define, there you go, define brush preset, and this is sample cloud. See, now this shape exists inside of here. So if I go back to here, I can select this as my new, I have my sample cloud tool here. See, it does the same thing. I mean, obviously I'm fucking up my gear here, so I'm gonna see, same blending right there. That's as easy as it was, but this is the best fucking smudge tool that exists. You can define your own shape. You can play with the opacity along the edges to get the different effects that you want. But this unto itself is a pretty goddamn good brush. And if I push this is only at 40, what is this? Here's 100%. See, it pulls the entire thing. And then here's at 30, and see, it's got a very, like it doesn't move pixels very much at all, because I'm now using a very low strength. But like 60% is a good production amount. Like I can sit there and I can blur and blend this in pretty easily. But you can go back and you can rewind that. It was like 6 steps to create that out of Photoshop. And this is the best blending tool you could ever build. But this, now you know how to build it yourself with those extra little steps. Now you can experiment with like different shapes. Like, do you want to have like a hard edge that you can sculpt and push things with? Or do you want to keep a soft edge, like with a circle here with a soft edge tool? You can blend those different hard and soft factors. Like here's a wedge smudge brush that I built. Here, I'll demonstrate how this one works real quick. Let's go with let's go with this. There, see? This is like a guitar pick. It has a hard, sharp edge on this end, but it has a feathered, soft end over here that's a curve. So if I use this as a blending brush here, when I push this, it's like really gentle with this soft edge. But if I'm here, it's a much harder edge. It pushes pixels much more aggressively. So you can build like little guitar picks like this, or any other kind of shape that you want, to be able to build a utility like a utility knife, to be able to manipulate the ink the way that you need to based on what your style is. But now that I taught you how to do that, you don't need my fucking brushes. But that's how you can build. That's how you can build anything. Like if I wanted to, like if I want to build a foliage brush, like I could do something like this. There, and now I can create this as I select all. I want to right click. I hold down the control button and then tap this to select all. But I could just use the select all function if I wanted to instead. But I selected all, and then I go back into edit, and then I drop down to the define brush set. That's what it is. And then I could make that into like a little scrub brush that I'd be able to stipple with. And then that's essentially how Bob Ross is just creating a series of stipple brushes and then using those stipple brushes to smudge and to push paint around the page, the same way that I'm doing right now with the smudge technique. But if you show up on, actually I probably won't be coloring the environmental art this afternoon when I start working on Ukulele Bard's cover art. But I will be soon enough in that project. So that'll be a good one for y'all to follow along with, to see how I do landscape stuff in general. But and use this. Yeah. I think I get it. So let's see what you want there. Oh, so it's simple as making a blob cloud of 20% circles. Well, like I go with 10%. And then just like stipple. Like I tap with a black you want to use black ink. And then whatever percentage of opacity you want for that ink blot, but you tap it in until it becomes black in the middle, and then as much and let it be as opaque along the exterior as you want. And like you saw, I had like those like little lines that left gaps. You want to leave those little gaps in there of lighter opacity, so that you have like these little spaces in between the blotches, so it pulls pixels at different spaces. But that's just something you can fuck around with. But yeah, that's essentially all it is. Super simple, and it just makes the best smudge brush because it's so low. It's just such a low CPU usage. And then let's take a quick look here to my where is my, is that, no, that's not it. I am looking for window equals brush settings. There we go. Here's my brush settings. My shape dynamics here. Off. The brush projection is so I can use my my art pen to be able to rotate in the third dimension. See, to be able to spin like that, I need to have a brush that can recognize three-dimensional space, which any Cintiq comes with. But if you use a Wacom tablet, you have to buy the art pen separately. I don't know if Huion comes with those things built in or not, honestly. I use Wacom because it's so good. But this brush projection button, see, if I see, I'm spinning my pen right now, but it's not making the brush change. If I click on the brush projection, I can now spin the brush. So when I create a brush that has like a tip or a curve angle, like if it's a non-symmetrical object, I can use this projection function to be able to get any kind of spin rotation that I want. So like if I'm going into foliage like this, see, I can curve this and make these like fun little foliage shapes. And this is exactly how Bob Ross does his bushes. Like this is like this right here is like a 6-second bush that I made right there. And I can come in here, I can like do this, and then there you go. Like that's a shitty tree that I built in like 6 seconds. But that's what it is. Like all like most of the brushes that I have, and I got a shitload of them. Each one of them serves a specific separate function for me to be like all these shapes that we have down here. These are all like different types of bushes that I have, right? Like that's a bush brush. That's a brush that I made specifically for like mid background foliage, whether it's trees or bushes. But I can do things like that, like cabbage, kale, things like that. That's basically kale that I took a picture of and then saturated it so that all the shadow became blocks of black and all the highlights became invisible white. And then I highlighted it, extracted that as a separate brush, and now I can use it at will. So, but that's the different techniques that I learned to be able to build all these different brushes to serve different purposes. Like this razor that I made. This is I use this for mountains. Like I can do a mountain edge like that, and you can start seeing this topography that gets created inside of there. So I can create different chasms and stuff real easily by stacking. Like that's a really good stone surface. But it took me. I had to go look at how irregular that shape is at really high. Like it's got all these little pock marks and stuff. So like when I'm working at 300 DPI for like an actual cover painting, I'll use this level of resolution and get all this little scratch language inside of there. But this started off just as basically like this. Like I built a shape, and specifically left little marks inside of it like that. But just like really high resolution. So you can do the same thing. You don't need my brushes. This is how I built it. But you want to learn how to create your own brushes. So like I talk about a lot, creating your own language that works with your aesthetics. Like the brushes you build for yourself using these techniques will allow you to lean into the line language that you naturally have as an artist. Like me having these overlapping line effects, that's a fill thing that I developed to help create these overhang and ridges and stuff to be able to operate inside these shadow spaces like that. So it's just part of my own specific artistic language that I developed over time because of different artists that I've observed that I like their aesthetics, and I just kind of pick up that technique after a while. But then I can come over here with this highlight like this, and then up the strength on that and smudge that out like that. There. Yeah, not bad. Like that. Go back to my normal round boring brush. Back to where it's supposed to be. Get back, Loretta. There we go. 7:42. We got 20 minutes left. Well, yeah, it has to have brush tilt. If you're gonna do Bob Ross stuff, it's all fractals. It's just fractals. So if you're gonna do Bob Ross stuff, you have to have that rotation awareness. It's the only way for you to be able to go tap, 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 tap. Like, it's the only way to be able to sensibly do that curving experience. I used to, before this technology existed, what I would fucking do is brush settings, right? And then we go to brush tip shape, this wheel here. What I used to have to do, like this is a good brush to show this with. Here's the brush, right? Tap. And then I'd have to come in here, tap. And then here, tap. And then here, tap. Like, I literally have to do that tap by tap by tap by tap, which is how I ended up developing a lot of these brushes, like with these strong curves to them, because the less often I have to rotate the fucking brush, the faster it would go. So all these techniques that I have, I developed without the rotation feature in the brush. Once rotation became technology we could use, I'm like, oh my fucking God, my production time just increased tenfold because I didn't have to have this window open causing this tap rotation thing. That rocked my world, man. When that came out, I didn't care how much it cost. I had to have that. So that makes all the difference in my techniques. Specifically, like, I'm completely reliant on that spinning mechanic. And you can see it, like, if you watch Bob Ross, you can see him as he's tapping. He turns his brush while he's tapping to get it to stipple in different ways, but all his techniques is just stippling. He's just he's either stabbing the board with ink and color, or he's pulling it with a knife, or he's smudging it with a soft brush. So he's either stippling, smudging, or dragging. And dragging, we know, is just a smudge brush at 100%. Like, that's his knife tool. Dragging paint across the page, as opposed to a soft brush using a lower strength up here, which is smudging it out. It's just that the digital tools are a lot more precise in their power and how you're maneuvering things. And once you figure out that's how his techniques work, then you can just start creating brushes that you need to be able to stipple the way that he does. Like this brush here that I built, at this scale, it looks kind of crappy, but when you make it smaller like this and you flump it all together into like this little cloud effect, it makes for decent foliage at a long distance. So I'm playing with your eye's illusion to create objects out of just random stipples, but it's that same stippling technique. Like, I use this a lot for foliage. Like, I'll lay down a base color, and then I'll switch the color and I'll do highlights inside of it, just like there. Like, that's a decent bush. I mean, the colors are wrong, but like, I can make ore out of that. I can make shrubbery out of that. It takes like no fucking time at all, just off of like this really basic brush. But it's like a quarter circle, right? It's like a 90-degree like, you got that 90 degrees there at the bottom, and then it's curved at the top. It just has a shitload of holes in it, and like at this resolution, it's super choppy. But the results of the technique are really good. That's just coming from experimentation on what language works for you. But that's all Bob Ross is. It's just stippling dots of ink and knowing how to rotate it and how to blend them. Super simple. It's on another channel. I need to pick up and move them over at some point, but I've got a fuckload of those of me just like painting along with Bob Ross. Maybe I'll do one of those on one of these streams. I think it demonetizes because I actually watched the episode. I'll pause it, grab a color sample off of his canvas, and then I'll duplicate the work. I could send you a link to one of those. But I used to have another channel where I would do that almost as frequently as I do token art. And I spent a year doing 100 some odd different Bob Ross paintings to pick up those techniques so I could get to this level. I'm dropping some highlights here. And go like around 80%. Yeah. But that's why I don't share my brushes, because they're so easy to build. You learning how to create those brushes and experimenting with creating it and then seeing its results and then tweaking it and then playing with those results and like experimenting with it yourself, learning how to create the brush and then use the brush itself. That is the best way for you to be able to accumulate techniques for yourself, which makes me sound like an ass because I don't share my brushes. But now that you know how to build them and what purpose they serve and why I use the ones that I do and why they're built that way, you don't need mine. It's like you know everything that you need. Now you have to put in the work, which is the rub. Like the real kicker in most art is you got to put in the fucking work. Which I don't think you have any problem getting into. But like young artists that ask for brushes, I kick them to the curb. I rarely share my brushes just because it's so easy to do it, and I'm not really teaching you anything if I give you my brushes. You've learned everything that you need from me. Now you have to go off and become your own master, if that makes sense. Hopefully it's not too much of a douche thing for me to do. It really is. It's really fucking easy. But that's the well, it's simple. Simple is not easy. Simple means it doesn't take a lot of steps to do it. But then it comes down to your mastery of the skills. How far down the rabbit hole are you willing to take yourself to gain that mastery for yourself? So, but yeah, it is. It's very basic. It's very simple techniques. There's nothing complicated about it. But you have to understand the underlying mechanics for why it works at all, which is where most of your experimentation is going to occur. But during that experimentation process, you are going to learn a lot about your actual brush technique, like how you use brushes, along with what brushes you use. So you can advance both your brush technique and the brush skills, the brush tool set that you have together so that you can become a much stronger artist at the end of it. Put a little highlight in like that, blip like that. And generally what I do when I make a new brush, it's basically like, how often have I drawn this shape? And how much do I anticipate using this same shape in the future? Like chain links for chainmail, for instance, is really useful to make like little chain links as a little brush that you can just stipple in. So you can like make little pockets of chain links inside of a larger area that could be like chainmail or like banded mail or something like that. You can like stipple in these like little texture drops. But again, that's building your own language to make your art like uniquely yours. And it's just the brush. The brushes just amplify what your art is naturally attempting to do. The brush just helps expedite it helps expedite the process of becoming what your art would already become if you create your own brushes, you're creating tools that help speed up your natural art process. Like, this is what my work looks like. The tools that I have lean into this effect. Like, if I was a different type of artist with different type of a different type of color and line language, my brushes would look differently because the brushes I have complement my style. So once you develop your brushes and your style of brush stroke, it's going to look like Dream's work as opposed to Phil's work. It'll look very different just because of the underlying architecture that starts to become consistent. Like when I develop and change a brush, a lot of times it's because like the little artifact marks that I see along it, if they're not aesthetically pleasing, or if the unrendered worked edges of the piece doesn't look like how I want it to look, I can change the brush to change some of that language inside of the illustration, so it shifts how it leans a little bit. I don't like it changes it changes, like using the jazz analogy. If I change what key I'm in, like the brushes I'm using changes the key of the instrument that I'm playing, but the way that I play the instrument is my brush technique. So, maybe that analogy makes sense. I don't know. Fuck it. I'm gonna put him in a fucking bucket. I'm gonna put him in a fucking bucket. I'm gonna put him in a fucking bucket. Honestly, I don't actually need to do that much more with this character. Right now, I'm just kind of fucking around. But it's essentially done. I mean, it's just a token. It's basic. Because you're basic. We'll get to that guy later. Let's grab this eye color here to see if there's something interesting about it. Blues. I'm into that. That's cool. Drop in that base color there. And then yeah, not bad. Don't really need to take this token any much further. It gets the job done, and it's just a token after all. So it's not like I have to break my balls over it. And it's 7:54 right now, so I'm about to run. I've got a few minutes left, so I think I'll just go ahead and cap him there. Just leave that guy be. So that's my Kreen. I could do more texturing and stuff. I could always do more texturing, but it's just like it has a really good identity. Like it has a really good silhouette that makes it unmistakable as something else, which is like this is probably as close as on the camera as you're going to get. If this is like in a VTT or something, like it wouldn't be much more than this. So like I don't have to do ridiculous amounts of detail. I need to have a silhouette that is unique. So if I'm on a board, like if I'm on a VTT that's got, like if I'm on the deck of a Scorpion ship and I've got 3 Kreen on that Scorpion ship, then if this is the size of the token, you can, it's pretty unique in its shape. So at a glance, you can tell, well, that's a Kreen because it's got these proud, like these overarching limbs here. It hopefully, anyway, that's what I'm trying to convince myself of. So I'm just I'm just not diving into a shitload of detail because token. So, but yeah, so that's our Kreen for the day. I'm gonna go ahead and lock that one down. We could probably do the Sauron tomorrow. And we got the Artuk, which is a fucking stupid creatures, and then here's our Kokra, which oops, that disappeared. Like you can see how little we've developed the feathers so far. So when we get back around to working on this, we'll ramp our way into working on the Aarakocra, but we'll get to this one probably before. We might be able to get to this one by Friday. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. So next time we're gonna work on the Sauron tomorrow. But I'm gonna be back. This is me pretty much wrapping up Yeah, thanks a lot, man. It's a lot of extra fucking work. So people already say my art is good. Yeah. Now it's going to improve and improve and get much. Yes. So and shading is just a matter of adopting the light form. There's so many tutorials on lighting on YouTube already for free, but it's really just a matter of picking where your light source is coming from and like what obstacles are preventing light from getting to like this interior space of this. Like if the light source is up here, like this belly is going to be darkly shaded here, unless I get really complicated and create like a secondary light source that might shed some light in on this area. But they're just tokens. I'm not looking for that degree of complexity in these. So I'm keeping it kind of basic. Like the less important the character is, the more basic I'm keeping it. Like there are no Thri-kreen in Light of Xaryxis other than, hey, we picked up these 5 scorpion ships to be in your fleet, and they are piloted by Thri-kreen crew. So unless you actually get onto the deck of a scorpion ship in Light of Xaryxis, you'll never need this Kreen token. But in the Light of Xaryxis adventure conversion we're doing, this is a decent piece of spot art that I can drop next to the stat blocks of the scorpion ships. So there'll be the scorpion ship icon, and there'll be the Thri-kreen icon for the crew on the scorpion ship, and that's all the illustration I need for that crew, for that squadron inside of the book. So these are creating tokens and spot art for the book itself. So it's worth my time to invest in building these things because it's preventing me from having to create a unique piece of art for the Scorpion Squadron inside the adventure. So it's a lot of front end work that we've been doing, but on the back end it's going to serve us a lot because all these different ship and creature tokens that we've created are filling up the space inside of the book. Like the creature menagerie section, I don't need to do any illustrations in that at all because we already did all the creature tokens. Next to each creature stat block modified by the command rules by these combat rules that we use, I can just drop like the Eldritch Horror or like the Aesthetic or the Megapede. Like all those are illustrations that we already did that I just drop next to the stat block, and that chapter is done. So super fucking easy. So it's a very long ramp in process, but once all these tokens are done, we can start feeding in artwork into the actual book, dropping things into place, and be able to move through a number of pages in a day of illustration to be done with them very swiftly. And then we can just start doing fancy crap. So long process, but I'm hoping to get this stuff done in the next couple weeks. Have all the tokens out of the way so that we can get into that process. So that's what's next. So anyway, yeah, absolutely. That is, well, make sure you fucking like it first before you commit yourself to it. But it's pretty good, and I'm thrilled to hear that. I'm glad that you're excited about this because it's cool. It's really fucking cool, and it works really well. So I think you and your teams will be pleased. But yeah, definitely, it'll be 100% free preview. You can at least read the mechanics and then buy it if you want the tokens and stuff, or just to support me. But yeah, I'm going to be back later on today. In about 4.5, maybe 5 hours, I'm going to come back on, and we're going to start working on the landscape painting for Ukulele Bard's role-playing game cover, and we'll be picking at that slowly but surely between now into July. It shouldn't be too heavy of a lift. It probably won't take more than 15-20 hours if I really mince on it. And considering the quality work that he did for me, I want to make sure I give him the same level of quality. So I'm going to invest some time on it. But it's an off task, so it's just it's another side hustle that I'm running, and it'll be fun to do some landscape artwork for a change to show how these different techniques work together with the Bob Ross stuff I've been talking about. So yeah, let's just say 5 hours from now. 5 hours from now, we'll be back. We'll be doing that. So I'm going to log out for now, and I'll catch you guys in a number of hours. And thanks for hanging out, my guy. I will see you guys then. Cheers.